All right, so you're a parent and you feel like a complete failure. You feel like you're not doing it right. You feel like, how in God's world did I ever get chosen to be a parent? This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I'd like to get off this train. This is just headed for disaster. That's totally normal. All the parents feel this way. I have 25 years of experience walking side by side with families. And what I know is one truth. And that truth is that your connection with your child today shapes your child's future. Now, when I say that, do you feel like, oh, thanks, you just overwhelmed me even more? That's not my intention. My intention is to almost just highlight, like, it's really not whether you took them to Disneyland, kept the house clean, gave them the best Lunchables, did all this, went to every single soccer game, and had all the greatest pictures of their birthday and or that, all of that like extraneous parenting pressure that we feel. It's more about the small moments of connection. These small, and truly scientists are finding that it's 40 seconds. So you got that, right? 40 seconds of connection will start to help you shape a secure attachment with your child. So when I say connection, the first thing about your connection with your child is safety. If you're feeling like a full-on failure, right, as a parent, you might not feel all that safe to your child. And so this is a perfect time for you to pull a Caregiver Kindness card. Now, I would suggest one of the cards that have been mindfully created is the journal time card for you. These are prompts for you to take a separate moment from your child. If you can, light a candle, make some tea, because what we know is the more secure you create within your own kind of environment, the more you're going to drop in and answer these questions. What am I doing well as a caregiver? Give yourself some props for the things you're rocking, because I know you're rocking some stuff. And the more you focus on what you're doing well, the less you'll feel like a failure. That's true for anything, right? But really hard to do, because sometimes we are our worst enemy, especially when it comes to writing ourselves about parenting, because we remember how we were parented, right? And so we're going to get into that. What are some things my parents did well? Maybe you can't think of anything. Really try. Try, what did they do? What's one thing that they did that was actually helpful? And write about that. Write just about that. We're not getting all Pollyanna here, though. We're not like focusing on the positive and ignoring the negative, right? Because that's not what conscious care cards do. And we know that that's not what the research wants us to do. We're starting off positive, but we'll get there. How are my parents' failures showing up in my parenting style? Now, that might look like a serious overcorrection, right? Like, my parents were very neglectful. I am a helicopter parent. My parents were helicopter parents. I leave my kid on their own a lot. So this is where you're really investigating, what were the biggest failures that my parents did, right? For me, it was like specifically my father was terrified of how big my feelings were. And so that showed up by him literally disconnecting whenever my feelings would get big. This is something that's shown up in my life for the rest of my life. I mean, I'm a therapist, right? There's like, oh, I wonder why she became a therapist. So these are things that you need to really understand as well as you can, because if we're trying to make you a conscious parent, that is, how awake are you about your parenting? So what parenting styles showed up? How did they hurt? So write about that. Then, how are my childhood experiences of that, parenting failure blocking me from being available? Where is that block? And how can I, Either just notice the block, see the block, understand the block, and give myself some grace for that particular block. It's going to start with you and your grace, you giving yourself grace. Now, what is one thing you're doing better than your parents? Like, in what way are you doing it better? Because in the work that I've done with all the parents I've seen for decades, that is the one thing that I think of all repeated. I do not want to parent my child like I was parented. We start there. What you have to do is, of course, feel the feelings of how their failures have affected you. And the more you can do that, the more you can show up with eyes wide open in your parenting currently. And that's when you're going to use the community. That's when you're going to step into the membership and talk to other conscious caregivers.
How do I do that? How do I use these new revelations or things that I'm wondering about, and how do I bring that to the community? How do I use it to help my parenting grow?
Well, you're not going to do it perfect. You're not going to do it super well, but you're going to lean in, right? So all we are is a community of caregivers who are owning our impact, and we're owning our impact by being aware of what happened and what didn't go right. And you're typing how it feels. You're typing what you're comfortable typing to your community. And that community is of parents who are humble enough to say, I screwed up and this is how I did it, or I am terrible at this, or I hate this, or this is so hard, or, I just did what my mom did and I told myself I'd never do it and I did it. This is a community of people who are going to welcome you and help. All feelings belong in our community. All feelings belong here, because what we're learning together is that the more we are sturdy and capable to hold the feelings, the more the feelings will come and they will go, and the healing will happen. Healing happens in community. Healing happens in connection. So as a philosophy, we talk about safety and connection at Conscious Care Cards. So as a philosophy in the membership, when you're exploring and going into a deep dive about your own reparenting yourself, you need us and you belong, because you're going to deep dive into a group of people who are owning their impact. And sometimes that means it was a negative impact. I totally screwed up. And so this is a place to be humble. This is a place to do it wrong. This is a place to realize you're not perfect. And it's a place that really talks about, this showed up and I did it this much better. You don't have to do it 1,000 times better, and nor do you have to be some, research-based perfect parent. None of us are, and none of us will be. But you need a community to lean in and say, I screwed up, and have the community say, it's okay. They can have the community say, I screwed up here too. I did this and I feel terrible about it. And then have another parent say, it's okay, because I also remembered that you did X. I remember you wrote about that, and that was awesome. And you used that card that really broke open your relationship with your child when you talked about the drawing boundaries, and you used the shield of power, and you really taught your daughter how to say no to some generational boundary violators. And that was a huge win. And that might be something you've forgotten right now because you're beating yourself up about screwing up at the soccer game. So we're here to remind you, you're not going to be perfect, but we can do it together, because we're owning our impact as conscious, caring adults for our children.